It's a nice purport, and the context is, this verse is a dividing verse at the end of the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. It leads into the middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The middle 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is articulating or expanding on this verse, like how to perform bhakti. And that's what, beginning of chapter 7 and the rest of chapter 7. It's how to perform bhakti. So here's the purport. The word bhajate, Shraddhavan bhajate yomam, bhajate, is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, B-H-A-J. I'm not a Sanskrit scholar, but a little bit. The Sanskrit is derived based upon root words or verbs, and then from the verbs, then there's declensions of those verbs, in this case, that case, the other case, and so the root of bhakti is bhaj, but bhajate has its root and bhaj, but bhakti, same root, dhatu, which is used when there is need of service. The English word, quote, worship, cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore, or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid, and then the logic is this, one can avoid worshiping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous. But one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. So that's pretty heavy. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. So go back to the verse. There's 3. He's emphasizing the word bhajate, Shraddhavan, van, having the quality of or possessing, Shraddha, having faith, having the quality of faith, Shraddhavan, bhajate, yo mam, yo is like certainly, like very strong. And what does that bhajate, or the service to the Supreme, include? It's very simple. What the body does and what the mind does. Very simple. I mean, that the language he uses, but it's what he's saying. Thinking of me within himself. Now, there are different ways of mechanically or artificially or somehow or another thinking of the Supreme within oneself. However, automatically, that's accomplished by the mood of service. That is, when the service to the Supreme, our activities, actions, karma, is a byproduct of whatever it is that's been given to us, ability, tendency, resources, etc. And then you do some work. So that work that's bhakti is, the work is bhakti. It's not just, it's activity. It may look like working in the kitchen, like so many homes. Everyone's cooking, doing something in the kitchen. And one is what's behind everything. Aham sarvasya prabhavo, matak sarvam pravartate, iti matva, bhajante mam. Iti matva, thus knowing, bhajante mam, they engage in my service. The same word, bhajate. Same word. Bhajante mam. Look at this, Bhagavad Gita is raining $20 bills. Bookmark. So, the remembrance of Krishna, for whom we're doing, so I just read a passage this morning, this afternoon actually, so I wanted to share. The devotion, but it was late, because he was like a fastidious person. The book is this thick. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, that's the title. And so they waited to go with the book. And all of the maths, the number of Gaudiya math centers, which was also a novel creation of Bhaktisiddhanta. Anyway, in India, there was a legal entity, the Gaudiya math, and with temples and deities and the whole program. So they were to go establish a Gaudiya math in London. But they couldn't go until the book was ready. And then each of the Gaudiya math centers contributed some donation so they could have some means to maintain themselves once they were there. Because they did, they had some contacts, but it was, adventuresome. So off they went, and they were not so successful. There are 2 or 3 reasons why they weren't so successful. One, they weren't empowered like Prabhupada was empowered. They didn't take this as, somehow or another, they didn't take it as their mission, although they had support of Bhaktisiddhanta and finances. They had a book. Another major difference was their faith in the holy name, because one of the conditions that Srila Prabhupada carried with him was profound faith in the holy name, which made him successful. Someone might say, how do you know that? Scripture tells us, and realized souls tell us, and he had great faith in those. So that's how the Hare Krishna movement, chanting Hare Krishna. So as the sannyasis came back without having established a center, some time passed, and Prabhupada sent 3 American, I could say, youth, or say kids, like in their early 20s. And what did they know? They didn't know any, they knew Prabhupada. And from Prabhupada they learned ABC. And then they're sent on a mission that 2 sannyasis, superlatively educated, erudite men, were unsuccessful. So here's this young 3 couples. You know the names. So they started doing, Prabhupada sent them from San Francisco, where they had successfully started a Hare Krishna temple in San Francisco. It's simple, it was just like a storefront. Actually, it wasn't just a storefront. It was previously a mortuary. Anyway, without it was something that was in their means financially to afford. So and Prabhupada liked what they did so much that Prabhupada sent them to go to London. So 3 couples, they for the first time they shaved their heads. And they went to do the same thing all over again that they had done in San Francisco. And they were trying the same strategy, but a different place. So they understood they had to modify the strategy, and they got some encouragement from Prabhupada to chant publicly. They were ahead of a place where they could do indoors, but then they started going outdoors. So they went outdoors to Trafalgar Square. Lord Nelson standing at a bigger than life statue, and after some time the police came and chased them away. And they did it in a way different than police in the U.S. would do, but move along. They didn't arrest them. So it was raining. It was London. It was raining. So what to do? So they had this thing between the 6 of them. What should we do? It's raining. And they had this. The reason I'm telling this story is who's behind it. How do you make decisions about? So if you're doing pioneering work, how do you pioneer? Like it's new territory, so it's completely new territory. And they had this discussion. It was wet. They were cold. Nobody around. And then then they went back to what Prabhupada, just fundamental things that Prabhupada said. The success is the endeavor. The result is up to Krishna. They weren't evaluating, look, there's nobody here. It's raining. We have to begin. And we depend on Krishna. So what happened was, after they did some philosophical evaluation, for whom are we doing this? And for what purpose? It's not just to get some result. It's carrying out the order of the spiritual master. The result is what the result is. So they, in the rain, they went out into another place and started chanting. And one man came along. The one man later became a devotee. They didn't. Anyway, they're with faith in the instructions of the spiritual master and trying to appreciate the purpose behind doing something is to please the person who we're doing this for. And it's Prabhupada, but Lord Chaitanya and Krishna, and that's what's behind us. And the realization of that comes in part from doing. Because you can read a book and you don't get necessarily the realization of the person for whom you're cooking in the kitchen or cleaning the floor or going on Harinam Sankirtan or distributing books, or you just think, results of books or something. The material features of what you're doing without what's behind it. So this verse is emphasizing the two things: the activity and the consciousness behind the activity. For whom is this activity being done? Because one more time, this word bhajate, it's service, it's activity. It's meditation, yes. But meditation upon, while doing something, upon what you're doing, for whom you're doing this. That's bhakti. That's bhakti. And there's something very special. It's in Bhagavad Gita. There's no one more dear to me than he who takes this message and distributes this message. So why distribute the message? Because Krishna will be pleased. Not just like, I want to be Krishna's buddy. I want to be in his good book. But, being in a relationship with Krishna. And there's no better way, according to what Krishna says in practical experience, than whatever it means, the risks, or whatever it may mean, to take risks. And, extend oneself out of one's comfort zone and do things that are, in principle, pleasing to Krishna. And if you're unclear what that is, you read Prabhupada's books and it becomes clear, or it can become clear. The Bhagavatam 11.5.3 confirms this as follows: Yesham Purusham Sakshat Atmanam Prabhavam Ishwaram Nabhajantya. This is really small print. Nabhajantya Vijanati Stanad Brashta Patantyata. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall